The year is after Colony 195. What's going on, everyone? Phil here from Park Life Nerds. Today we're going to talk about a show that really got me into anime in general and just nerdy stuff. I grew up in the UK, and around that time when I was growing up, Toonami was huge on Cartoon Network. It was the best way to get your fix of shows like Dragon Ball Z, Outlaw Star, Cowboy Bebop, and the show that really caught my eye was Gundam Wing. From what I understood with Gundam Wing was, the franchise was the first show that really took off with the Western audience, and for me, it was basically watching a show which was Power Rangers Megazords fighting it out in space. But without all the clunkiness as you see now when you watch Power Rangers, mind you. Now, admittedly, back in the day, I did not understand the plots, and there was a lot of internal monologuing going on there, but I definitely had a whole set of Gunpla, mainly the original 5, a few of the extras like Epion and Wing Zero. So I figured let's look into the Gundams and the mobile suits throughout this show and see why it made such an impact on me, and see what extras I can learn about the suits now that my ears and eyes are open. Alright, so let's begin. Gundam 01, the Winged Gundam. Probably one of the most iconic Gundams in the series. The Wing Gundam boasted both a flight mode, or bird mode, along with its buster rifle. This Gundam was almost a carbon copy of the Wing Zero, which we'll get to in the future, but Wing Zero was basically the original Gundam made by the 5 scientists. Originally piloted by Hiro Yui, who was the main protagonist of the series. He used the Gundam to battle Oz, and he became the main rival of Zex Marquis, who piloted both the Tolgis and Epion over time. Over the course of the series, 01 lost its arm, was self-detonated, then rebuilt, made space-worthy, then destroyed again in the final battle. It was quite a cool Gundam. I wish I got to see a bit more of it. Now let's look at the weapons. Main weapon was of course the Buster Rifle, based off Wing Zero. However, it mounted in the middle of the bird mode helmet. Unlike Wing Zero's Buster Rifle, this was a single shot. Very cool though, very powerful. On Wing's head, there was the Vulcan guns. As you'll see with most of the Gundams, they've all got Vulcan guns on the head. Machine cannons in the shoulders, used for close combat firing. And of course the shield itself. Saw them use it to stab a few people with, which was pretty cool. And finally, one of the main things you'll see throughout the series is, of course, beam sabers. Beam sabers used for quite most of the battles in the franchise. And as I mentioned, this was an iconic one of the series. Hero landing on Earth and watching it transform from bird mode into battle mode was really cool. And yeah. Okay, next Gundam off the ranks. One of the coolest, Death Scythe, or remade Death Scythe Hell. Gundam 02. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the most badass looking Gundams, mainly because it had a beam scythe, and that was something I hadn't seen before. Death Scythe was piloted by Joe Maxwell, the man with the ponytail, voiced by Scott McNeil, who was also Rat Trap in Beast Wars. Now that you've heard that, you will be unable to hear it. It was created by Professor G and built for stealth. Death Scythe had hyper jammers in its backpack, making it invisible to radar and almost invisible to all electronic devices. Now let's look at the weapons. Of course, it had its beam scythe for sneaking close combat, a buster shield that can be used for close combat as well as fired at the opposition, and mounted in the head, of course, it had its Vulcan cannons. Gundam 03, or Heavy Arms, was a Gundam that basically chewed through the most bullets you've ever seen. Heavy Arms was piloted by Troy Burton and created by Dr. 5. The Heavy Arms, it was created for long-range attacks and basically providing suppressive fire to overwhelm the opposition. As you can see from it there, it is just full of guns, so why don't we go through them all. Like all Gundams, of course, Vulcan cannons on the head, machine cannons in the collarbone, the chest Gatling guns, the chest opened up to produce 2 Gatling guns, 6 homing missiles that were located in its shoulders, micro missiles mounted to the legs, army knife on the right arm for close combat. Of course, you need close combat, and its iconic beam Gatling gun, the main weapon over the left arm, able to be mounted on the back when not in use, as it was too heavy and would mean that they were quite immobile whilst using it. As Heavy Arms was mainly a ground-based attacker, it wasn't going to be much use in space. However, it was rediscovered and upgraded and to the Heavy Arms Kai for space combat, which meant a lot of the guns and basically made airtight. This version had dual beam Gatling gun on its left arm, so double the firepower. Still pretty cool, but looked pretty similar to the original if you ask me. Gundam 04 or Sandrock. Sandrock was piloted by Quattro and was built by Instructor H. It was designed as a land/desert attacker. Its armor was made a lot more durable than the other Gundams, and as you can see, it's quite chunky when you look at the pictures of it. Again, because of desert fighting, it was close combat. It was designed to function through sandstorms and had built-in a commander unit, so it was able to lead by example, basically, which comes into play a bit later on in the series. As you can see, weapons-wise, of course, it had its Vulcan guns. Why not? Because it's a Gundam. It's heat shotels, I hope I pronounced that right, which are basically the two swords. Main weapons, heated curved blades, basically could slice through any opposition. There was a shield mounted on its arm for protection, although it was one of the more bulkier armored Gundams, and they could combine the shield, swords, and his backpack to create a cross cutter on his arm, which was used basically to just cut people in half. That could also be fired at people if need be. During a battle, Quattro ended up self-destructing Sandrock. In a bit of an emotional part, the Gundam actually opened its door and let Quattro escape, and we walked straight into the middle of Oz self-destructing, which we all thought was going to be the end of the Gundam, as the other pilots all escaped. However, Oz discovered the remains of this suit and went about recreating it for basically their own purposes. I'm going to butcher this name, but it found its way into the Magnet Corpse, and on his return to Earth, Quattro was able to find his Gundam and reunite with his friends, and luckily they managed to, like everyone else, made the suit safe for space travel, which really helped out in the final battle. Quattro himself was around and about. He piloted a few different, like the Gundam Wing 0 and a few of the Oz suits, but once he found his way back to Sandrock, he took a leadership role in the team. Alright, Gundam 05, the last one of the original Gundams. Gundam Shenlong, or as it became in the future, Ultron. Shenlong was piloted by Wu Fei, or Chang Wu Fei, and built by Master O. The Gundam was created to excel in close combat, and again, another unique design I've not seen really throughout the franchises. Its weapons, of course, Vulcan cannons on its head. It had a beam glaive, which is the pole. Again, another unique close combat weapon, and everyone's favourite, the Dragon Fang, which was the dragon head, which would close over his fist, shaped like a dragon appropriately, and could be extended for, I wouldn't say long-range attacks, but long enough to attack from further distance. That was also mounted with flamethrowers on the inside. Shenlong's shield was a round one for throwing, kind of like Captain America. He also had a unique function called Fighting Sight, which was a sensor system built into the Gundam, which meant it could pinpoint the exact location of all its targets. Shenlong was used in many battles, and of course it went to space with the rest of the Gundams. Unfortunately, the close combat style fighting was not the best in space and ended up becoming disabled when he attacked an Oz lunar base. Whilst kidnapped, Woofy discovered the scientists, all 5 of them, had got together and were secretly working on Shenlong as well as 02 Death Scythe, which leads us to his rebuild, which was Ultron. The name changed from Shenlong to Ultron due to Ultron meaning two-headed dragon, which becomes appropriate when you see in the upgrades they actually gave it 2 dragon fangs, which meant both hands could be extended now as an attack from long distance. His beam glaive was also upgraded to a 2-headed trident beam. On his backpack he had mounted thrusters and beam guns, so he could attack with guns basically from a distance. I thought this was a really cool rebuild, especially the fact that it got two dragon fangs. Just that cool scene where he extends them both and attacks a few mobile dolls was awesome in the franchise. And again, cool Gundam. I think this series had just some cool Gundams throughout. Let me know which ones your favourite Gundams are, guys. Okay, guys, thanks for listening to my babble. If you liked it, please let me know. If you'd like me to talk about a few other mobile suits throughout the series, let me know as well. Would love to talk about the Talkies, Espion, the Leos, you name it, we can do it.